History brims with enigmatic figures whose lives and actions have puzzled and fascinated us for centuries. Few, however, captivate the imagination quite like Grigori Rasputin, the faith healer and mystic often called the Mad Monk, became a central figure in the twilight years of Imperial Russia. A peasant turned mystic, Rasputin's life was a tapestry of power, intrigue, and ultimately tragedy. Born in a small Siberian village, he rose to become a confidant of the Russian royal family. How did this seemingly unremarkable man from the remote Siberian wilderness ascend to such dizzying heights within the Russian court? And what led to his dramatic downfall? Was it his own excesses, his enemies, or the inevitable collapse of the empire he was so closely tied to? Was his presence at the Russian court both a symptom and a cause of the turmoil that would soon engulf the nation? His piercing gaze, often described as hypnotic, seemed to hold a strange power over those who met him. Many claimed that his eyes could see into their very souls. Was he a holy man, a charlatan, or something altogether more complex? His actions and the legends that grew around him make it difficult to separate fact from fiction. Let us delve into the life and times of Russia's most infamous monk, Grigori Rasputin. Born in 1869 in the Siberian village of Pokrovskoye, Grigori Yefimovich Rasputin's early life was far removed from the opulence of the Tsar's court. He was one of many children in a peasant family, his childhood marked by hardship and poverty. Details of his youth are scant, shrouded in the mists of time and rural obscurity. Some accounts suggest a troubled youth, prone to petty theft and brawling. Others speak of a spiritual awakening, a yearning for something beyond the harsh realities of peasant life. Whatever the truth, Rasputin's path led him away from the familiar rhythms of his village and towards a life of religious exploration. In his late 20s, Rasputin underwent a profound transformation. He embraced a life of pilgrimage, wandering across Russia and visiting various holy sites. This period of spiritual seeking honed his charisma and deepened his understanding of religious fervor. By the early 1900s, Rasputin had developed a small circle of followers, primarily family members and other local peasants, who prayed with him on Sundays and other holy days. He developed a reputation as a starets, a holy man possessing spiritual insight and healing powers. News of Rasputin's purported abilities eventually reached St. Petersburg. Russia's elite, hungry for spiritual guidance and fascinated by the mystical, welcomed him with open arms. Little did they know, this enigmatic Siberian would soon be a fixture in their lives, his influence reaching the very heart of the Romanov dynasty. Rasputin's entry into the Tsar's inner circle was facilitated by Tsarina Alexandra Fyodorovna. Desperate to find a cure for her hemophiliac son, Alexei, the Tsarina saw in Rasputin a beacon of hope. His apparent ability to ease Alexei's suffering cemented his place in the royal household. Rasputin began acting as a faith healer for Nicholas's and Alexandra's only son, Alexei Nikolaevich, who suffered from hemophilia. The Tsarina, deeply religious and emotionally vulnerable, came to rely heavily on Rasputin's counsel. He became her confidant, his influence extending beyond matters of faith and health. The cause of Alexei's recovery is unclear. Historians say Alexei's recovery is one of the most mysterious chapters of the whole Rasputin legend. This newfound power, however, did not come without a price. Whispers of impropriety and dark rumors began to circulate within the court, casting a long shadow over Rasputin's growing influence. He was a divisive figure at court, seen by some Russians as a mystic, visionary and prophet, and by others as a religious charlatan. The extent of Rasputin's power reached an all-time high in 1915. As whispers of debauchery began, Rasputin's presence at court sparked outrage and scandal. His eccentric behavior, unconventional religious views and rumored debauchery alienated many within the aristocracy. Stories of his wild parties, fueled by alcohol, spread like wildfire. Whether these tales were true or exaggerated by his enemies remains a subject of debate. What is undeniable is the climate of fear and suspicion that enveloped the royal court. Rasputin's enemies, sensing weakness in the Tsar's reliance on the mystic, used these scandals to undermine the monarchy. The once revered monk had become a lightning rod for discontent, his presence a symbol of the perceived rot at the heart of the empire. As Russia marched towards war, Rasputin's grip on the royal family tightened, further inflaming his enemies. His influence over the Tsarina, already a source of contention, reached new heights. Many believed he held undue sway over political appointments and even military decisions. The outbreak of World War I proved disastrous for Russia, adding fuel to the fire of resentment towards Rasputin. He became a scapegoat for the country's misfortunes, accused of treason and treachery. His enemies, convinced he was a German agent, plotted his downfall. Assassination attempts, each more audacious than the last, became commonplace. Rasputin, however, seemed to possess an almost supernatural ability to evade death. The night of December 16, 1916, would be Rasputin's last. A group of conspirators, led by Prince Felix Yusupov, lured the monk to Yusupov's Moika palace. They concocted a plan in December 1916 to kill Rasputin. What transpired that night has been the subject of much speculation, fueled by conflicting accounts and deliberate obfuscation. What is certain is that Rasputin met a violent end. He was poisoned, 3 gunshots were fired on him, one of which was a close-range shot to his forehead, and finally his body dumped in the icy Neva River. The autopsy report painted a gruesome picture, confirming the brutality of his murder. Rasputin, the seemingly invincible Siberian mystic, had finally met his demise at the hands of his enemies. According to Yusupov's account, Rasputin was invited to his palace shortly after midnight and ushered into the basement. Yusupov offered tea and cakes which had been laced with cyanide. After initially refusing, Rasputin began to eat them, and, to Yusupov's surprise, he appeared unaffected by the poison. Yusupov excused himself to go upstairs. He took a revolver and returned to the basement and shot him. His body was then wrapped in cloth and was driven to the Petrovsky Bridge and was dropped into the Little Nevka River. News of Rasputin's death sent shockwaves through Russia. The man who had once held significant influence over the Russian royal family was no more, and the nation was left to grapple with the implications of his demise. For some, it was a cause for celebration, marking the end of his influence. They believed that with Rasputin gone, the royal family might regain its lost credibility, and the nation could find a path to stability. For others, it was a sign of the escalating chaos engulfing the nation. Rasputin's death was seen as a precursor to the greater turmoil that would soon follow, a harbinger of the revolution that was brewing. In death, as in life, Rasputin continued to fascinate and repel in equal measure. His funeral was attended by a mix of mourners and curious onlookers, each with their own interpretation of the man and his legacy. Myths and rumors surrounding his life proliferated, further blurring the lines between fact and fiction. Stories of his miraculous healing powers, his influence over the Tsarina, and his supposed ties to the occult became the stuff of legend. Tales of his hypnotic gaze and his rumored affairs only added to his mystique. His piercing eyes were said to hold a power that could bend others to his will. And even his ability to survive multiple assassination attempts became the stuff of legend. Each failed attempt on his life only seemed to enhance his aura of invincibility and deepen the mystery surrounding him. Was he a true mystic, possessed of supernatural powers? Some believed he had a divine gift, a connection to the spiritual realm that allowed him to perform miracles and foresee the future. Or was he a cunning manipulator who expertly exploited the vulnerabilities of those around him? Others saw him as a charlatan, a man who used his charm and cunning to gain power and influence. The debate continues to this day, ensuring Rasputin's enduring place in history. Over a century after his death, Grigori Rasputin's enigmatic presence in Russian history continues to spark debates and discussions among historians and enthusiasts alike. His rise to prominence within the Russian court was as swift as it was controversial, and his influence over the Romanov family was both profound and unsettling. The early 20th century was a time of great upheaval in Russia, and Rasputin's presence only added to the tension and uncertainty of the era. Rasputin's legacy is complex and contested. His life and death remain inextricably linked to the tumultuous years leading up to the Russian Revolution. The events surrounding his assassination are shrouded in mystery and intrigue, adding to the legend that surrounds him. Whether villain or victim, Rasputin's story continues to captivate, reminding us of the enduring power of mystery and the enduring allure of the unknown.